scale, one of the most unsightly, insidious orchid pests you'll ever have to deal with. And if you leave them unchecked, they're going to ravage their way right through your collection, leaving mayhem and destruction in their path. But these small, soft-bodied insects are some of the easiest to kill. So there's no excuses, or are there? Because if you use the wrong techniques, they're going to drive you mad. So let's avoid that and have a look at what we can do to get rid of these little pesky problems. Welcome to the Nature Company. If this is the kind of information you're interested in, hit that subscribe button down below and that notification bell to be notified of all our upcoming content so you don't miss out on a thing. So first of all, we need to understand a little bit about scale. It's those tiny little like cockle shell things that appear on your plant, these little raised bumps, generally in a brownish or reddish brown color, that appear on your plant. And at first they look like they're just little pock marks or little dried sections, like something's taken a little bite out of your plant, but it's a little raised bump. And this is the tough shell that the scale produces to keep itself safe, and it glues that shell onto that part of the leaf and never moves. When it does move, it's in its infantile stage. It's called a crawler, and what happens is the females produce their offsets or little babies or whatever you want to call them, and those then, when they mature enough, crawl out from underneath her shell and go find their little spot and bite in, and then start producing their own shell and stay there for the rest of their lives. And this is how they form these large colonies on your leaves or parts of the plant. But these little crawlers are actually able to get quite far. So as soon as you start noticing scale on an orchid, move it to a quarantine area so those little crawlers can't crawl all the way onto your other orchids. And remember, a lot of these scale produce a honeydew that the ants just adore. So these ants will then move the scale from one plant to another so that they can get a constant supply of this honeydew. So these guys are clever, and they'll get themselves spread around your whole orchid collection if you're not keeping a vigilant eye on them. And it's only the females of these specific insects that are actually causing damage to your plants. The males, they hatch, put on their pretty little fairy wings and fly off. They're tiny little gnat-like creatures that just look pretty and have fun and don't damage your plants. It's the women again that are the more dangerous of the species. They're going to get in there, and if you allow them, they'll destroy your whole plant. Now that we understand that they've got this tough shell and this glue, we've got to find a way to kill that tiny little soft-bodied insect that actually will die relatively easily. So we've got to find a product that's going to dissolve that glue, or at least soften it to allow some of the dangerous elements for that specific insect in. And there's quite a range of little ways that you can do this. First of all, if you've got the time and your infection's small, you can just take a little toothpick or something similar, or your nail, if you can get your nail in there, and then just scratch them off. If it's a very light infection, this is easy to do and relatively quick, but if it's a heavy infection like this, it's going to take some time. But even if you are treating, it's always best to go through your plant, taking off as much of the colony as possible, so that if there are any other ones underneath your first layer, that they're then going to be protected from any spray that you use by the ones on top. So try and remove as much as possible just to make sure your sprays are going to be more effective. Also, another easy way is using isopropyl alcohol. You can just use a Q-tip, and you can either spray your isopropyl alcohol onto the plant itself and wipe them off, or you can dip this into the isopropyl alcohol and then do your wiping, which is probably going to be a better idea, so you're not leaving too much of that alcohol on your plant. And anyway, once you have done all your removal of the majority of your scale, you're going to want to then rinse your plant off, just to rinse off any of that alcohol or any of those insects off, so that we're spraying from a fresh plant. And then what we're going to use to get rid of the rest. One thing I'm using at the moment that I'm finding extremely effective, but it's not going to necessarily be the easiest product to get, is a tea tree, an Australian tea tree hydrosol. And this I've spoken about in one of our other videos. Also, it's just basically giving the plant a gentle spray with this. This being a hydrosol is not too concentrated, so it's not going to affect your plant the same way as your isopropyl alcohol or some of the others may do. And this you just leave for a little bit. What this does is it loosens up the glue that's holding those scales down, and it's going to get in and actually kill the insect itself. But then again, it's also going to allow you to get in with your Q-tip and just remove them off. And some of the other products that are particularly good in removing scale are things like your eco oil, your paraffinoic oils. Also, you just use them as a spray and spray them on. It will break down the glue holding the scale on, enter in and kill that insect. Also making those scales easier to remove to make your plant less unsightly. Also, another good organic product is lime sulfur. It's been sort of banned in certain parts of the USA, I believe, in California or something, but that's mainly because of the injudicial handling of the product, not because it's causing any damage to the environment or anything itself, which chemical products do. And those chemical products are just as detrimental to your health. So just with careful use, ensuring you're not breathing in the fumes and stuff like that, all the normal precautions you'll take when using any products. So lime sulfur is also an excellent one. It also helps with your fungal problems as well, as does neem oil. Neem is also another amazing product and is very effective on scale. So there's just a small breakdown of the different products that I use in my combating of scale. Also, one thing you need to understand, scale is generally a sign that your orchid is unhealthy. It's not happy where it is, it needs more attention, it's not being fed enough, things like that. That's generally where you get these problems with scale. If you're able to rectify your cultural practices with your orchids, you're less likely to have the attacks. And if they do happen, they'll be much milder, because your plant will then be able to fight off the scale more effectively itself. And also ants. If you can keep your area clean of ants, you're going to be much less likely to get scale. Also, if you're keeping on top of the maintenance of your plant, and if you can stop those crawlers from getting around, it's as easy as that. You'll stop the spread of the scale themselves, because those little crawlers, they're also at that soft body stage and can be killed really easily. So no need for heavy chemical use or anything when it comes to scale. Just a few organic products and you're probably set. This large pot of mixed vandas here has only been repotted several months ago. They're still beginning to acclimatize to their new conditions. They were in not such a good state when we potted them up, and they're already starting to get some nice shiny new root growth, but we landed up with only on one of them an attack of the scale. So we're just going to get in, clean this out and make sure it doesn't spread to any of the rest. And always remember, when spraying for scale, ensure that you get into all those little nooks and crannies between the leaves, because that's invariably where those little crawlers will start off running off to in the first place, just to help keep them protected. And some of those will stay in there to reproduce. So remember, also take off these old leaf sheaths if you can. There's going to be scale hiding in underneath those two, and we want to just make sure we get this properly treated so that there's no further spread of the if you want to call it infection, the infestation. That will just make sure that your treatment's more effective and you get all of those nasty little buggers. Also remember, your first treatment is most often not going to be enough to get rid of the problem completely. You'll have to make sure your plant is in nice healthy condition again first, and you may have to do 2 or 3 treatments to ensure that all of those little buggers that have been hidden somewhere are dead, and to make sure that those ants haven't hidden some of them somewhere else and brought them back. And of course, as usual, any of these pieces that you've pulled off your plant, don't just go throw them on your compost heap. Throw them in the trash. Get rid of this debris that may have eggs or crawlers or even whole scales still attached to them. And also remember, one of the big reasons that we want to make sure that our sucking insects don't spread from plant to plant is because they can take disease with them. Things like viruses and other diseases are often transmitted through these sucking, biting insects. So make sure you've isolated and quarantined any infected plants so that we don't have an outbreak of something else as well. And we'd just like to do a quick shout out to 2 amazing people who've just joined our Buy Me a Coffee membership program. Thank you so much. We really, truly appreciate this. Thank you, thank you. This is David from Dave's Orchid Oasis. He's just started his own YouTube channel, so be sure to go check him out. And D. Smith, thank you so much. You have no idea how much this actually really, truly means to us. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And thank you for watching. If you found any of this information helpful, please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button down below, and that notification bell, bing bong, to be notified of all our upcoming content so you don't miss out on a thing. Help us grow as we help your orchids grow.